real. It emits the faintest of glimmers, but an honorable glimmer. Darwin pivots 180 degrees. His heart turns clear around. Or that was my first impression, he says to Lyle, suddenly switching gears, and I should have certainly acted on it had it not been for your letter. But your letter has shown the way. Even Stephen you have ruled. Even Stephen. And who am I to presume to overrule Sir Charles Lyell? You are the Dean of British Naturalists, my old friend. There is no greater or wiser man in this entire field. Everyone, including Wallace, will be better off in the end if we leave all this in your accomplished hands. Yes, Sir Charles Lyell had made his decision. The two papers, Wallace's and Darwin's, would be made public simultaneously before the Linnaean Society. With a single stroke, Sir Charles had made the question of priority disappear. He, Darwin, would not be claiming priority, just the opposite. He was extending a magnanimous hand to a newcomer. He would be making room on the stage for a lowly flycatcher to be heard. The one remaining catch was that Lyell and Hooker expected Darwin to write his own abstract. He couldn't do that. He mustn't do that. He begged off with some pathetic excuse. He didn't have the courage to tell them that his own conscience must be kept clear. His own conscience had to believe he had nothing to do with this project. It wasn't his idea. It was entirely theirs, Lyell's and Hooker's. I, Charles Darwin, had nothing to do with it. Above all, let no man be able to say I wrote an abstract for myself after reading Wallace's paper. There mustn't be a hint of any such paltriness before an august body like the Linnaean. So it fell upon Lyell's and Hooker's shoulders, the task of concocting for Charlie an abstract out of what they could lay their hands on quickly. Let's see. We have a copy of a letter he sent last year to an American botanist at Harvard named Asa Gray, giving a halfway outline of his concept of natural selection, and there's some sort of abortive sketch, as he calls it, that he has at home for a book on transmutation he's been telling himself, for the past 14 or 15 years, he's going to write someday. Footnote: Darwin sent Hooker copies of the letter to Asa Gray, an 1844 sketch of his theory, which Hooker had previously annotated, and Wallace's paper. These items were accompanied by one of two letters sent on June 29, 1858, in response to Hooker's request. In both June 29th letters, Darwin alludes to the fact that Hooker and Lyell will be drafting a manuscript for submission to the Linnaean Society. For the complete text of these letters, see the Darwin Correspondence Project database. End footnote. And, of course, we have Wallace's paper for, how should one put it? For background, or context, or maybe something along the lines of corroborative research or heuristic monitoring. We'll think of a term. In any case, we're in a position to make sure there will be no important points in Wallace's paper that aren't also in Charlie's. Hooker's wife, Frances, is a bright little number. We'll get her to read Wallace's letter and then pull together some extracts from Charlie's sketch, and while she's at it, shape things up a bit where necessary. There is more than one way to swat a flycatcher. Footnote: Darwin thanks Frances Hooker in a letter to her husband dated July 5, 1858, available at the Darwin Correspondence Project database, and again on July 13, 1858. End footnote. When they were finished, Darwin had two papers to his name, both very short. First, an abstract of his letter to Asa Gray, and second, the extract of his unpublished sketch, tidied up by Mrs. Hooker. Combined, they were almost as long as Wallace's 20 pages. To put the matter in perspective, one has only to imagine what would have happened had the roles been reversed. Suppose Darwin is the one who has just written a formal 20-page scientific treatise for publication, and somehow Wallace gets his hands on it ahead of time, and announces that he made this same astounding epochal discovery 21 years ago but just never got around to writing it up and claiming priority. A horse laugh? He wouldn't have